Hi classmates! This week I present to you Rosie Revere, Engineer. I chose this book for several reasons. I thought the cover was pretty interesting. I really liked the play on the Rosie the Riveter, and it was about a girl who wants to be an engineer, which is pretty unique. There's not a lot of books out there like that. This is one of 4 books that author Andrea Beatty and illustrator David Roberts have worked on together. Their first book was Iggy Peck, Architect. Then Rosie Revere, Engineer. The third book and the fastest selling picture book of 2016 was Ada Twist, Scientist. And their newest collaboration is Sofia Valdez, Future Prez. Andrea Beatty said she was inspired to write Iggy Peck, Architect after watching her children build all kinds of great creations using soup cans, boxes, rocks, and anything else that they could get their hands on. She wrote that book in about 2 weeks. However, Rosie Revere, Engineer, took her almost 2 years to write. The author said after she had seen a picture of Miss Lila Gurish's class, which is this illustration here, that she decided that each child had a unique personality and each one had an interesting story to tell. And she decided to write Rosie Revere first based on this picture. There's an interesting quality also that I didn't notice until my 6-year-old nephew pointed it out. But everyone in the class has their eyes closed except for Rosie Revere. And as you may notice, Rosie has her hair covering her eye. In fact, throughout the whole book, we don't see Rosie's other eye. She's kind of shy, and so she's always hiding behind her hair. If you look at this illustration, you'll find there's all kinds of interesting little pieces that Rosie Revere has gathered together to create her inventions and her gadgets and gizmos. In fact, towards the bottom left, you'll see a monster from Where the Wild Things Are. There's a corn on the cob hidden there, a half-eaten Oreo, a can of olives, can of spray cheese, of course, tons of paper clips and thumbtacks and all kinds of neat things. Another reason I chose this book for reading aloud, though, was the style of writing that author Andrea Beatty uses. And if you can see the text on the right-hand side from the book, says, "Alone in her attic, the moon high above, dear Rosie made gadgets and gizmos she loved, and when she grew sleepy, she hid her machines far under the bed where they'd never be seen." That line really stood out to me, especially if you tie it into this week's reading assignments. And in one of the articles, there's a prompt that suggests that we should display children's paperwork, artwork in prominent places to help build them up and make them feel good about their efforts, and so they'll be willing to try new things. And if you remember the text, it said that Rosie hid her work far under her bed. Well, that happens because Rosie had decided to make a machine for her favorite Uncle Fred, who worked in a zoo, and she makes a hat that will keep the pythons off of his head. Well, as you can see by her face, things didn't go quite the way she had hoped. In fact, it's quite the opposite. He laughs so hard and slaps his knee that she decides right then and there that she will never let anyone else see her machines. In this illustration, you'll notice that the top half is an airplane and a woman working on it, which ties back and plays on that Rosie the Riveter title. And it's actually a big speech box, and the story has been given by Rosie's great aunt, Rose. And she's telling her about how she used to work on airplanes and that she has one last great dream, which is to fly. And if you can kind of see the text, the first 2 lines read, "And that's how it went until one autumn day when her oldest relation showed up for a stay." I love how the text rhymes, and in fact, as you read through the book, it weaves around some of the illustrations. And not to give too much away, but Rosie thinks that she can maybe help her great aunt's dream of flying come true. But to find out what happens, you'll have to read that for yourself. One of the other things I really liked about this book was the appreciation of parents and grandparents for doing what needed to be done, especially women during World War II, and how they really stepped up to the challenge and filling in many positions of building airplanes and jeeps and tanks and bombs when it wasn't typically a woman's job. And I think that is so important for young girls to know that they can do anything. And that's one of the reasons I like this book. is that Rosie can be an engineer if she wants to, and she can be inspired by her great aunt who's here in the helicopter. One of the other points from our required reading was talking about stimulating a child's interest, and this is one of the illustrations from the book. The artist David Roberts included flying machines, all created by women, and you can see them in the background that there's a hot air balloon and different types of airplanes that Rosie's drawing and reading about as she's trying to help her aunt achieve her dream. One of the other things I liked about this book, especially for reading aloud and reading religiously and deeply, was that it takes the whole experience of the book to another level. Each of the books has a companion book. This happens to be the one for Rosie Revere, and it's Rosie Revere's Big Project Book for Bold Engineers. And there's neat projects in there for children to do, and I think it just takes it to a new level and makes it a whole experience of reading and opening up the possibilities of what they can do. So hopefully you enjoy this and you'll check out Rosie Revere, Engineer, and the other books that go with this. Thanks.